Everyone, welcome to our session, Remote Productivity and Efficiency. Today is a very special session because actually Jonathan and Annie are both user leaders in our community program, so that's even more special. And I'm happy to introduce both of them. Jonathan is principal at his at Distributed Success and Improved Consulting Group. Annie McLeod is a project management coach at Distributed Success. And we also have Ken Cameron, who's a facilitator at Corporate Culture Shift, and Pamela Louie, who is a digital transformation and culture advisor, also at Distributed Success. And I'm happy to give the ball away to Jonathan to further introduce himself and everyone.
Very good. Yes. Thank you so much, Natalie. So it is an absolute pleasure to be here at Distributed 2020. I know that last year when I attended the conference, I was just blown away by the content and all of the great talk. So it's a real pleasure for us to be here with you today. Before we get rolling too far, I'd just like to cover a few of the basic ground rules that we usually do for our events. So please mute your mic unless you're prompted or until we get you into the breakout rooms. We have some great activities to go through today that'll get everybody involved and get your brains going. So that's awesome. You can feel free to use the Zoom chat if you want to ask us any questions. We also have a dedicated spot on our Miro board, which I'll post the link into the web chat here so everyone can join us on the board. It's going to be a lot of fun there. So we will do our best to answer your questions during the session, or since we only have an hour, if we run out of time, we will commit to get back to as many of you as possible. And please turn your camera on so we can see your smiling faces. It's nice for us to have that interactive, you get to look at us. So we like to look at you as well. Thank you very much for that. So as we were very graciously introduced by Natalie, we are Distributed Success. We're a group of individuals who've been in the consulting world for many, many years, and we saw the potential of shifting to distributed work strategies. And then COVID-19 happened, and now we've been really thrust into it. So we're working hard to try and help organizations adapt or adopt to distributed teams and remote working environments. And Miro is a big part of how we do it and how we do it as well as I think we do. And so I'll introduce myself just really briefly. Natalie already did a pretty great job, but I specialize in lean and process improvement. So I help companies get more efficient and do what they do better, faster, and cheaper. And as we move through, I'll just have Ken do a brief introduction for himself. And once again, if we can just get folks, if you're not on the mic, please mute your mics, and maybe we can get Annie, our host, to try and snag a few of the people and auto-mute them if that's possible. So Ken, go ahead, give a brief introduction for yourself.
Thanks, John. My name's Ken Cameron, and I work specifically within organizational culture. And I work with both nonprofits and for-profit organizations, both large and small, helping them define their values, but then more importantly, put those values into action every day. So that's the work that I do. And after me, we'll hand it over to Annie to introduce herself.
Thanks, Ken. And I'm Annie McLeod, and I've worked for a lot of years in project management, and that's my contribution to the team is to teach some of those project management skills to clients.
And over to you, Pamela.
Thanks, Ken. Hi, everyone. My name's Pam Louie. I'm a 20-year consulting veteran, and I've worked with global organizations. And part of that working with global is working effectively when you're not in the same location and sometimes not even speaking the same language.
Very true. So our talk today is on remote productivity and efficiency. Many I see working from home offices, and I think it's fantastic. I've worked in distributed teams for over 10 years now and learned a lot of tricks along the way, and we hope to share some of those here with you today. And specifically to that end, we had some learning objectives that we wanted to share. I just wanted to do a quick check that everyone can maybe give me a thumbs up if you see the Miro screen that I'm sharing right now with the big brain on it. Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. So we want to help you to develop a bit of an understanding here for the interdependence between culture and collaboration and continuous improvement. And we want to illustrate that to you through some interactive exercises, experiential exercises that we've created. So it's always a great thing when we get to have a little bit of fun and learn a few things as well. So what does distributed success do? Well, we do custom remote workshop design and facilitation. It's become a lot easier and actually a lot more effective using Miro to do this. We do culture and team building workshops. We do continuous improvement team development. Anyone can run improvement projects at their organization, but we try and impart that capability on the staff within the organization so everyone is contributing. We do coaching and mentoring, and we do distributed team assessments, both from psychological assessment point of view as well from more readiness assessments to say, or certain organizations might need to, beef their team up or beef their systems up in one way or another. And so, sorry, I jumped ahead too quickly. So the way that we get our learning out into the world is through this 4-pillar model that we have over on the right. And so number 1 is kind of the base foundation of any good organization, is working to enable a high-performing culture. And we'll talk a little bit about what that means and what that looks like. Next is adopting a continuous improvement approach, which means always looking to get better at the way that you're delivering your products or your services. The third is aligning the enterprise, which is all around making sure that we have a long-term strategy in place and that we're working to achieve those strategic goals, and getting measurable results. Make sure that we are measuring the right things to know how well we are delivering, and so that we can set a baseline of performance. And when we make some improvements in our organization, we have a measure to compare back against. And so for the high performing culture angle, what we really want to be doing here is creating the right environment for our teams to thrive. We do that through building mutual trust and respect, promote collaboration amongst the teams. We want to ensure a safe environment. And we're not just talking about physical safety here, we're talking about psychological safety. We want to keep everybody in a mindset where they can share and have their ideas be spoken and listened to and have good conversations. We want to develop our people so that we can make everybody better and more effective at what they do, and we want to empower and involve everyone. And there's kind of a misnomer or practice that I've seen a lot where it's on the senior leaders in the organization to make the changes and the more frontline staff are just responsible for doing it. But we don't believe that. We believe everybody should be involved and leading these kinds of initiatives. For a continuous improvement angle, we want our people to be constantly learning how to do things better than they do. So this is the theory that we don't want people just to be in working to rule, doing their job as we've described it. We want them, yes, to be completing those tasks, but we also want them to be thinking about how they could be doing things better for the benefit of both themselves and for the company, and most importantly for the customer overall. This means we need to understand our current state, what we're doing today, before we can go ahead and improve it, because if we don't know what we're doing now, we won't know how much better we've gotten. We want to use evidence-based decision making. So we want to have data and evidence to make decisions, not make guesses or assumptions. We're always looking to identify and eliminate waste. And this is waste from anybody's perspective, from leaders and managers, from the frontline staff, from our customers. We want to get rid of that in any of our systems. Another great principle is to not pass defects forward. And if you think about it, everyone gets busy in their work schedules. They're doing the work, they just want to get it off their desk as quickly as possible. Well, they might be handing poor work down the line, or they've received poor work from someone that is upstream of them. And so we want to make sure that everyone's focusing on delivering to the next line in the process flow the most accurate and best piece of work possible. And we want to aim to think about how to measure our processes. And the 3 ways that we'd want to do that is through efficiency, effectiveness, and flexibility. If we can get measures around our processes in these 3 areas, then we're going to have a real good idea on how well our processes are performing. And if we have goals in the organization to get better, we can kind of know where to tweak our processes to reach those goals. So the last 2 pillars of our approach are align the enterprise and get these measurable results. So aligning the enterprise first means we want to adopt a systems thinking approach, which means think of your organization as a system that has many moving parts that need to come together in order to produce our products and our services. We want to have a long-term vision or goal, and lots of companies have strategies, but very few have really good tangible goals set out, because if we don't have tangible goals set, it's going to be a lot harder for us to reach them. We can't just say get better. We should start identifying how much better we want to get, and then we know how we need to shift the organization to reach those goals. we don't want to distort reality, and we want to embrace the truth, even if it's bad. And many times it can be. And that doesn't mean we should hide it or run away from it. We need to know. And so the sooner we have our leaders in the organization leading by example and sharing these stories of struggle, the better everyone's going to get at saying, well, let's just own up to the situation and figure out what we need to do, as opposed to saying, oh no, everything's fine, it'll be absolutely fine, and off we go on our merry way, and things will never get better that way. And then we want to create a deployment plan for our strategy, which is something that I see a lot of organizations miss. We have these great long-term goals that we've set for ourselves. We give it to the entire team, and everyone's expected to just go do it. Well, how do you do that? Well, we have tools, we have techniques that everyone can apply, so you actually can deploy on that strategy and know that what you're working on is going to be something that will lead your company to reaching those goals. And then around our measurable results, what gets measured gets managed, and we want to manage what we measure. So that's knowing what data to get throughout our organization. And it's not just about how much money we made or how much time it took to build one product. There are many segments along the way where if we understand the performance at those stages, we'll be able to get ahead of any issues that might be arising or speed things up if we need to. We want to align our team's personal values and behaviors with our organizational performance. And Ken is an expert at this in helping organizations and teams discover what values they hold dear, both at a corporate and at a personal level. And if we can get that aligned, we can really ensure that everyone's on the same page and going for the same things. And then we want to leverage the cause and effect relationships in our business so that we can achieve our goals and create value. And so that means that if one department does something that can speed work up in another department, then we want to understand how that works. And the same goes for a vice versa relationship, where if someone's doing work that's really slowing us down, then we have a bottleneck there. Let's figure out how to fix that so that we can get some nice flow going through our processes and deliver a little bit faster. And so we just wanted to quickly highlight a few of the consequences of not focusing on culture and continuous improvement as real base foundations here. And so when it comes to contribution to strategic goals, and maybe some of you have seen this, and maybe you could throw some thumbs up or some waves if you've experienced this, where employees have no idea how they contribute, or they could care less if they do. They just work to the rule. They're there to collect a paycheck. Has anyone ever seen anything like that before? That's because we're not letting people know how they're contributing to the overall goal. For teamwork and collaboration, the silos in your organization might be evident, and employees are disengaged and they don't trust. There's lack of trust from department to department. They don't trust the leaders. It's very much us against them, which is not what you want. You want your organization humming and everybody working towards a common purpose. For customer service, employees sometimes don't even understand who their customers are. You might be in an internal support group like IT or finance where you're servicing people in your organization, but those people in finance or IT might think that the customers, the end users, are their particular customer, and that's not always the case. So they don't consider how to add value, and they're not effective at doing it. Around change, you get employees who are resistant to change. They're incapable or not permitted to change something, and then they can't shift and adapt to new conditions. And we've seen this so many times with COVID, where everyone was waiting for the senior leadership team to tell us what to do. And while we were doing that, we were sitting at home, maybe enjoying a little bit of a vacation, but it wasn't great for overall company performance. And then they decided they had to cut jobs. Whereas maybe if everyone was empowered to think about how they could alter what they're doing, using some of the tools that we use, that might have been a little bit better. And then finally, process and performance. Employees are set up for failure, and then individual accountability is the focus, and poor performance is reprimanded. And we feel that the processes and the systems in your organization should be set up to support people, to make them successful. And I've seen so many times where nobody could have done a job well working in a particular system, but because this individual didn't do well, they were reprimanded or fired, and they replaced them with a new person. And of course, things got no better. No person in the world could do a great job in certain cases. And so we want to make sure we're setting our people up for success. And so where does Miro fit into all of this? Well, it's a very visual, infinite collaborative platform, which hopefully many of you have used. And it brings people together in this great way. And so when we start to talk about some of the lessons we want to impart on your organizations, this is the way to get the message out and to get people working together practically. It appeals to many different learning styles, which is another thing we love. So whether you're left brain, you're right brain, you think in pictures or you think in stories, we can create workshops or facilitations or teamwork sessions, any kind of project boards that would appeal to these various thinking styles and get everybody involved in contributing so you don't have the largest voice in the room. We're no longer limited by time zone or specialized systems or applications for processes. We don't have to use Visio now. Visio is still a great tool for just process mapping, but you can do all that in Miro, and you can do so many other things in one workspace where everyone can come and share and contribute. That's amazing. No more printing it into Adobe and sending it out for everyone to review. It's everyone come to this board and work together. And then maybe best of all is the design of interactive frameworks or activities that can support a variety of learnings, give folks some practical experience in certain areas where we can launch certain methodologies, and it becomes, instead of having to teach everybody everything about everything in terms of improving our culture, we can now set up these really great frameworks that have clear instructions, and it becomes more of a fill in the blank activity where we can work both synchronously and asynchronously. And so these are some of the reasons why we absolutely love Miro, and we think it's a key to getting our strategy of our 4 pillars out there deployed in your organization, because it makes things just so visual. And so we'd like to shift a little bit now and actually run you through one of these activities. And so let me just pull out of here for 1 second. And we'll have Annie kind of give us a little bit of background for this upcoming activity. Here we go.
Able to cast votes on the post-it notes. Could you please confirm?
We hear someone else. Hey, if we can just get folks to mute your mics for right now, we'll all be talking with each other very soon.
I thought I had them. Anyways, so what we're going to do is break everybody out into different groups, but we've got a little bit of background information here because we want to set all of our different teams up for success. So just take a few minutes and we'll follow through on what the keys to these activities are and give you guys an opportunity to work in Miro. And then also on the right-hand side, you'll see we've got some basic Miro tips of key things that you may want to do in our activity for some of those folks that may not be all that familiar with it. So the scenario that we're going to be working in is we're working for the 123 PPE company. And for 10 years, 123 PPE has delivered high quality personal protective equipment for our best and only customer. So unfortunately, COVID-19 pandemic has had a very negative impact on our business. Our team is completely distributed now, and this has affected our ability to deliver PPE effectively. And since our teams are remote, our vibrant and connective culture is being replaced by endless Zoom meetings, and we fear our staff are beginning to lose a connection with each other and with our one and only customer. So employees are also frustrated that they're putting in as much or more effort as before, but they're not able to deliver pre-COVID levels of PPE equipment to our customer. If we cannot find a way to get our company back on track, then 123 PPE is doomed, and frontline workers will not have the equipment they need to stay safe. So everyone on the team wants to do a good job, but how can we support them so that they feel engaged, less frustrated, and how do we adapt our approach to deliver more PPE? So what we're going to be doing is breaking folks out into 10, we'll have 10 different breakout rooms. So you'll be assigned to one of those 10. And in those 10, we've got a series of tasks for you to complete. You can see on the board here and in the Zoom piece that John has shared that we've got 5 separate tasks. And we're going to be assigning you to each of those rooms, and then we're going to be timing those tasks as you go through them and work with your team to complete them. And we'll unmask the steps as you go along. So it's important to note that each task is a little bit different for each team. So we've given you one kind of overall scenario that we're going to work through here and demonstrate kind of how the different pieces are, but it'll be really important for you guys to read the instructions when you get into the rooms. And then at the very end of it, we're also going to be creating a leaderboard so that we'll bring all of the results of your activities from those 10 teams overall, so we can see the results for the different teams and all the implications to your process improvement activities. So let's have a brief look at the demo, and John and Pam and Ken and I will kind of show you what to expect. So as you can see on that very first task, the task is all about roles. So we've got 9 different roles in total, from the manager, who will coordinate all the activities and read the instructions aloud at each step, to where you also see the timekeeper and the team reporter. So the timekeeper is going to keep track of 60-second runs as we do our process improvement activities. And that timekeeper is also going to, we're asking them to watch out for our broadcast messages as we unveil your next task to be delivered. There's also going to be a team reporter, and that reporter will be reporting the results in the leaderboard. Then you also see the roles of supply, packaging, quality control, shipping, delivery, and the customer. So you're each going to have one of those, select one of those roles and participate in the activity directly. So we're going to allocate 4 minutes for that piece of work. And then we'll move on to the next task. So our next task is going to be our delivering our personal protective equipment to customers. So the first thing we want you to do is take the time to practice. So get a baseline set of results so that you know the productivity of your particular team. So everyone would get in the position of their role. So if you are in supply, you're in that role A, you're going to be by that box. If you're in packaging, you're going to be at that B station, and so forth. And then the timekeeper and the recorder will be kind of sitting off to the side. And then folks that are in the room but not actually assigned to a role will be observers. So your key result is to make sure you cheer your team on. So what the timer will do is let the team, or the manager's going to let them know of when to begin the 60-second base run. So they're going to have to work with the timekeeper to go ready, set, go. And then in 60 seconds, you're going to move as much PPE across as you possibly can. So shall we demonstrate that? I see Ken's already moving stuff. And we've got Pam at packaging. And she needs to move stuff from packaging to quality control. So as we move through those different pieces, we'll move as much as we can to ultimately get to the customer. And then at the end of 60 seconds, what you'll be doing is the recorder will record in that results box exactly how much equipment, PPE equipment, got to the customer. So that's completing your base run. Then we'll have a third activity, and that activity is going to vary depending on which group that you've been assigned, but the type, so if you look at your instructions, you'll have some specifics about how to complete that task, and it may consist of brainstorming on ideas at how you can improve your process. It may be dot voting, where you're selecting those different ideas, so that you would be putting an idea onto a sticky, bringing it into the brainstorming area, and then maybe the team would be voting by moving a dot over and seeing how that works. But again, it'll be really important as a group for you to read those instructions, because each group will have a little bit of variation. So then once you've finished that activity. You'll have 5 minutes to complete whatever your activity for your team is, and then we're going to move into a final run. So just like we did in the baseline, the manager will implement some changes, and then we will rerun that 60-second run and see again how many parts of the PPE you were actually able to get to the customer. So the manager will have to actually change the process or modify it just the way Ken is doing there. And then you'll run it again and see how that results in your productivity. So you got 5 minutes to complete that final run. And then what we want to do is do a team debrief. So we're looking at 2 different pieces on this. Is everyone... Hey, Dad. No, it's expected. Everyone on the team was empowered and involved, and again, it's just a slider here of disagree, neutral, and agree of how you're feeling about that, and then whether our new process is productive. So again, we're looking at the engagement of how folks are feeling, and everybody should participate in that team debrief. So whether you're actually active in your process, or if you were an observer, then we would like to get all of that debrief feedback. Mm-hmm. So that, and then lastly, we should understand what the rules are. Because her back is hurting and she's supposed to be in quarantine.
You want to mute Chris?
I told her that. Okay, that's why I was there.
Thank
Sorry, got him. Couldn't find him. All right. Too much information. So the rules, especially for you expert Miro users, you can only select only one PPE at a time, no group selecting. We're not doing copying, pasting, or duplicating, any of those kind of things. PPE icons must be moved along the connecting line, so you have to go along that path. No more than 1 employee per station, and most importantly, we want everybody to have fun. Mm-hmm. So that's awesome. Going to be the sequence of events.
That is it. So it looks like we have about 56 people in the Zoom room, Annie. I'd say that means we could make 5 breakout groups. And if anyone's not on the Miro board right now to take part in this, I've just pasted the link in the Zoom chat so we can get that going. And so we have a leaderboard here on the screen, and you'll see that each of the breakout rooms is linked. And so when folks want to, when you get broken into your breakout room, it'll have a title, breakout room 1, 2, 3, 4. Since we'll have 5-ish breakout rooms, just go ahead, click once, and then click on the link, and it'll bring you to the appropriate work area, which is going to be unmasked right now.
Okay, so sorry, John, you said how many breakouts?
I think 5 will work.
5, okay.
So just once again, if anyone runs into trouble, there's a little red flag in your work area. You can just expand that to be real big, and we'll jump right over to your breakout room and give you a hand.
Yeah, or you can also use the Ask Help in the Zoom Zoom drop down as well.
That's it.
All right, away we go.
Okay, we'll see you all very soon.
Good luck, everyone. Good luck. Have fun.
So 4 minutes was our first timer. Do you want to broadcast that we'll start that timer now, Annie?
Okay.
I've been invited to breakout group number 5.
Yeah, I just went into the one I was invited to and then left. I'll look at people already moving.
I'll give it a moment and then go join. my 5 group and see how they're doing. It's the only 2 people that found their way there, so getting a little better now.
Unassigned. Well, that's weird.
I'm gonna go to group number 5 and see how they're doing.
Okay, I'm just gonna pop in number 2 and check in there.
Okay. They got no manager.
Annie.
Yes, see.
Jackie, Baldwin, Jarvis, and Tina Camacho. What room are they in? Can you see?
Jackie?
Yeah,
With the
I
J?
see people are still like trying to work within our example area.
Jackie Baldwin is in room 2.
Okay, let me go there.
And who was the other?
That's it for right now. I don't know what that person, Sherry Gui. I'll be right back. Let me get Jackie straight
Okay,
away.
she's also room 2.
Hello, Annie. I was just in group 5 and Pamela was there as well. So there were 2 of us in that group. So I've exited. We got them started. But if you could move me to another group, that maybe one that doesn't have John, that would be useful. And,
okay, I think he's gone to room 2.
Okay.
So maybe I'll move you. figure out how. I'm here,
Three is
come
doing
back.
pretty well. Group 3 is doing pretty well insofar as everybody's got names assigned. The group that I was in,
Okay.
group 5, they couldn't even get to the point of picking jobs. But in group 1 and 2, they seem to be doing well. Nobody wants to be the manager. That's very telling.
Yeah, that's what I noticed too. So we
Here we
need to
go.
reset the next one for another 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, and
And I need to broadcast. So,
yeah, go ahead and do that. I won't distract you.
okay. And is John going to unmask it?
It looks like he's already done so.
Okay. It's actually 4 minutes, so I didn't do that timer right.
All right.
Okay. Sorry, Ken. What was I doing again? Trying to
were
get
going
you
to
into a
move-
breakout rooms. Yes. One unassigned. It's just coming. Angie. I don't even know who Angie is.
Hi, sorry, I had to pop off for a few minutes. I'm just a participant, but I guess I should
No
probably,
problem.
sounds like it probably makes sense for me to just wait until the breakout rooms this one's over.
Well, no, you're going to miss on a whole bunch. So I'm going to send you into room 4. Okay, Angie?
Okay, sure, that's great, thank you.
Okay.
And Sabine and Paula are in the same boat, I guess.
No, that's the only one that's coming up as unassigned.
Okay. Oh, so they just haven't accepted whatever place that they were being assigned to. Can you send me
Yeah.
somewhere? Can you send
I'm
me somewhere?
trying to figure that
okay,
out,
good.
Ken.
Well, this was the challenge we encountered earlier.
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure how to do that. Chat room, spotlight. This keeps going. Allow micro note. It doesn't appear to be an option for some reason.
So as we discussed in our test run at 10:30, it seems as if once I've been assigned to a group and have left that group, then I'm not allowed to rejoin another group. It's as if,
Oh,
you know,
I found you.
you found me? You found a way to move
Where?
me? Okay,
Yes, I did. Where would you like to go?
cool. Let's see. I'm trying to see who's not. I'm trying to see who's not succeeding.
Sorry, could you
Hello,
put me back
William.
in breakout group 4, please? I accidentally put the lid down.
No
We'll
problem.
put you back in group 4, William.
Thank you.
We
Excellent.
will.
And Annie, send me
Assign
wherever.
to-
Send me wherever you want. I don't care.
Okay.
What was it?
Now I know why everybody wants to integrate Zoom and Miro. Okay. I'll give you to the biggest team 2. There you go.
Okay. Team 2. Thank you. Just waiting for the prompt to come up for me.
Okay.
Tell me to go there. Oh, don't send me to group 2. Jonathan's already there.
Now, okay. I will send you to group 1. And
Jonathan's just moved to group 1. He's floating around. He's not doing anything
for
useful.
crying in the thing.
Send me wherever. Send me wherever you want.
Well, I almost need to move everybody in a sec too, so this is going to be distracting. Okay, and where did you go? There we go. Off to room 4 you go.
All right. Thank you. I don't have that option. Oh, there it is.
This takes a while, I guess.
This is so fascinating.
It is, isn't it? It's cool, John.
Yeah, it's neat. I know we lost a few people, I think, just from not getting the transition from the demo and introduction to the leaderboard. And one of the leaderboard links broke.
Oh, dear.
So for group 2, but it looks like they figured it out. They were all supporting each other to bring each other to the room using the Bring to Me feature.
Yeah.
It's just awesome the way they're really getting into this. I love it.
Cool. Totally cool. We're going to really time out, though.
Yeah. Somehow Team 3 is crushing it in terms of performance.
Well, and that's not bad. We had 94 people at the high.
Yeah.
That's pretty damn good, John.
Yeah, I wondered how we would do the retention bit.
Yeah, it's pretty cool watching them on the board, eh?
Yeah.
Have you gotten into team? Oh God, I hate it when it does that. Team 5?
Yeah, they're creating stickies.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
I just know. I can't just talk. That's all right. And everybody was really reluctant to be the manager.
Everybody was.
Was
Yeah.
really interesting.
Hi, gang. I've checked in on group 2, so they seem to be doing okay.
Yeah, they're humming.
Is there somewhere else you'd like to send me?
Team 5 is somehow, no, not Team 5. Team 3 is like somehow delivering an amazing amount of PPE.
They're copying and pasting, perhaps.
I don't know. I have to watch closely on the last run.
You want to go over there, Ken?
What, to 3?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do 3.
All right, off you go. All right, we've only got 20 seconds left, so.
Okay.
All right, so it seems to work well. I think I've figured out the Zoom and the timer, so.
I'm excited to see what this team does.
Oh, and the 4th exercise is 5 minutes.
All right, I'm just going to pop back into 2 and see how they're doing here.
Oh, that's so cute. Oh, that's so smart. Okay, good. Oh, I love it. Okay, and then last one. 2 minutes. Okay, cool. That's not bad, actually. I have 2 people that are unassigned, but they look like they may be new.
Oh,
So I don't
okay.
know if it's worth firing them into a room or not.
No, not right now. We're
Okay.
pulling everybody out in a minute and a half.
Yeah.
So I'll start doing the team performance. They went from 9 to 16. Good. Team 4 did 0 to 15.
3 was a fun group. The reason they were so successful in their first run was that they took 2 minutes instead of 1 minute to do the first run.
Excellent.
But then in the third run, they did it in 1 minute, and they still achieved exceptional results despite the fact that all they did was fire the manager. So it's so if what I instructed them to do was to do some complex algorithmic math and divide the time, the number of their result in half to compensate for the fact that they did it over 2 minutes. So hopefully they can do the algorithm. We'll see.
Right on. All right, I'll unmask the debrief slides here, Ken, and you have 6 minutes to cover those and get them to the Q&A, or skip the Q&A and just go right to the retro.
Got it.
Oh, they are coming out in 30 seconds, so that's great.
Okay.
Perfect.
Cool, that's stuck. Okay.
I'm going down to the debrief slides.
Okay, I'll share my screen again and you can just cover off what you see here.
Great. And then I can use the mirror board as well. Hello.
Welcome back, everybody. So we're seeing a few smiling faces coming out of there. It was a little hectic, we know, but kind of created it to be that way. And so we had anticipated up to maybe 10 different groups that we would run through, and we've created a variety of scenarios. So we only have a few moments left. Let's get a quick debrief going with Ken taking the lead there, and we'll talk a bit about what we saw.
Thanks, Jonathan. There's really 2 main master points that I want to make with you. And the first is that hopefully we've observed that it's a challenge to separate process and culture, because they really do feed into one another. Your people are not just cogs in a wheel, but they're people. And when in modern organizations, even highly mechanized process revolve around people and depend on people cooperating. So your cogs are not simply cogs, they're also people. So it's really important to put those 2 things together. There's a saying that people don't quit bad companies, they quit bad bosses. But in many of our scenarios, they were designed to illustrate the fact that it's the process that causes the boss to be bad sometimes. And even a good boss sometimes has a hard time trying to make a broken process work. So I wonder if we had the opportunity to observe that, and to what extent you were able to observe that. So we have some 4 questions here, but let me just ask you just briefly before we get into some of those 4 questions, what was some of your feedback? And I see just like a thumbs up. Who felt that they could kind of sense that the process was so broken that no matter how they, that it wasn't just about the boss, that it was also about kind of the process being broken? Give me a thumbs up if you felt that, either visually or using the thumbs up icon. You can even just, if your camera's on, you can just stick your thumb in front of the screen. Excellent. That's that gives me a sense of some members of the group. And then how many people felt that, you know, the process itself kind of existed separately from our fictional culture, and that the process of kind of trumped the culture, so to speak? Give me a thumbs up if you feel that it was more about process. Okay, great. So I can see I can see a little bit of a split in around that. It's been our experience that these things generally do go hand in hand. So some examples in one of the scenarios, I think it was in scenario 1, we had the notion that your ideas had been stifled and overruled by the hierarchy, or we had one person kind of derail that. So who was in group 1? Group 1, did you feel that your input was overruled, or that the manager was the one who was doing all of the leading of the group? Give me a thumbs up if you felt that way. Okay. What we know in and around high-performing cultures is that you need to engage diverse opinions, knowledge, and skills in the organization, and that collaboration, communication, and engagement are the keys to getting out those diverse opinions. We found in these groups that it was set up so that everybody could fill in a sticky note and have their input. But not every manager was instructed to take all of those into account. In fact, in one organization, they were simply told to fire the manager, institute another manager without changing the process at all. Didn't matter what anybody's input was. So that might be an example of the second idea, which is an arbitrary reorganization or threats and firings in the guise of improving productivity. So sometimes that's about, oh, well, if we just change the people, if we just change the manager, because obviously that's the process, and then we just tell people to work harder. but then that doesn't necessarily work either. So sometimes those are really useful for us to be, that's when it's really useful for us to use something like Miro to map out what the process is, to identify where the bottlenecks really can be. To recognize that it's not just about the manager, but that there's the process that's causing that block. The fourth scenario that we looked at is what happens when there is actually great alignment. So in teams 2, 4, 7, and 9, you all had inputs into the improvement. Now, some of them, not every team was able to do that, but your teams were able to have some improvements. And then we were in those situations, the challenge becomes implementing those procedures and keeping everybody aligned to what the new change is going to be. What can often happen is that you can institute a new process, get everybody to agree on that, but then there's usually what happens is there's 1 or 2 or 10 or 100 laggards who refuse to adopt to the new process because they don't want to change. They prefer the old way of doing things. And then in those cases, all they're really doing is holding everybody back in the vain hope that someday things will revert to the way they used to be, which is the way that they were more comfortable with. So in those cases, it's really imperative to bring those laggards forward and bring them with you. Let's look at thank you, John. Let's move to the last slide, our last point, which is that sometimes the processes that we've got were very simplistic, but what was really useful was us being able to compare our previous pre-adjustment score with whatever changes we were able to make, because then we had something objective to be able to compare. Now, in at least one case, we found that one group had actually taken 2 minutes to run their baseline session, but then they were only doing 1 minute to run their second session. And so in that case, they ended up comparing apples and oranges. So they weren't quite able to do an accurate assessment. Now, of course, they can simply adjust the numbers and by simply doing that complex math of, well, let's divide the first number in half. However, it does illustrate our point that in order to be able to see if any process is effective, you need to actually be able to have a proper measurement. So those were some of the key debriefs we've tried to pull out of these different experiments. I want to hand it back to you, John, in the interest of time, just to kind of wrap us up.
Yeah, so we do have a Q&A spot below all those breakout room activities on the board. We did see a few flying through the chat, so we will do our best to get some of those questions put back on here, because I believe we will leave these board open for everyone to come and reflect on. And the second thing you'll see at the very bottom of our board is a really quick retrospective. The first one is this real simple dot drag exercise. I'll just pull everybody to me on the board. Where on the left, going bottom to top, it's the level of knowledge you feel you gained from this presentation, and on left to right will be the degree of knowledge you can apply at your organization. So just grab a dot somewhere into this matrix to let us know if you feel you learned something and could apply it. And then on the right of that, we wanted to make sure that we had a more tangible giveaway and a way that we could reach out and connect with you and your organization a little bit more deeply. And so we have 5 draws that we'd like to give away. So if you'd like to enter those draws, just grab a sticky, write your name, your company name, and your email, and drag it into the box of your choice. You can drag it into all of them. 4 of these are going to be 1-hour consults with our team. We can come on board, listen to a few of the issues that you might be facing, and give you a couple of strategies maybe to go forward. In the areas of culture and teamwork is 1, continuous improvement is another, project management is a 3rd, and change management or digital adoption is a 4th. And the last giveaway is if your organization is new to Miro and you've been looking for a way to bring it in, we would be more than happy to conduct a 1-hour Miro introductory session with your organization for up to 20 people. So we'll be selecting one winner from each of these areas. And I apologize, we went 2 minutes over. I don't usually like to go over. So we'll let everybody get on with the conference, and we will be posting some of the answers to your questions here on the board. And I thank you so much for your attention and your participation. You really made those exercises come to life. It was really great to see. So thank you so much for your time, and we hope you learned something, and have a great rest of the distributed conference. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And John, I see that Alina has posted a great question. What makes Miro more useful for process analysis than, let's say, Enterprise Architect, besides the fact that it has a nicer interface? So that might be one of the questions that we try to answer in a follow-up as well.
Well, Alina is still here if you have a moment.
Yes, hi. I'm still here.
I wondered if you were, Alina. That's why
I'm as well as you a process consultant. So I totally feel you, and I know like all of the mentioned before, I could relate. But and basically like the majority of my work is to map out process tables. But I mean, even though enterprise architect or so is not really the nicest tool to work with, and I mean the UI of Miro is way better, but it seems to that I need to click a lot, and that it's, even though it's fancy, it's a little, you know, for our conservative industrial clients, there might be some obstacles.
So the way I would answer that is to say where I found Miro is the best and the most applicable is to bring people from absolutely zero knowledge of process, of performance, of mapping things, and giving them a very easy to use and intuitive way to start doing that, to start thinking about their processes in a functional way and get a great amount of collaboration. I mean, that's the number one thing for Miro is the new way of collaboration. Once you start getting very deep, I know we'll stop sharing my screen here just so we can see everybody a little bit better. There. Once you start getting deeper into process analysis, if you have a more functional tool that starts to give you a lot of linked or associated data with each kind of process box, and it's going to be maybe running some simulations in the background of process efficiencies, then Miro is going to be a little bit past what you're going to need it for. But in those cases, only one or two people in your organization would need the knowledge of such a specialized tool, whereas anybody can use Miro with no training. So I've really found it to be very impactful for something like we're doing today, where we can kind of get people to start to wrap their heads around thinking of everything as a system, thinking of the process flow, and then mostly identifying where they are running into issues and getting everybody on board that way.
Yeah, so it's like more first contact use for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna second what Jonathan said there. We've thanks to Jonathan introducing Miro to me, I've used it in a number of different contexts, speaking about culture. And what I've found really interesting is that the learning curve is very shallow. So you can learn the basics really quickly. And then once you've learned those basics, then yes, it does get steeper and it does get more complex, but it enables us. So Jonathan and I have run sessions that vary in lengths from 45 minutes to 2.5 hours. And we've noticed that people who, even people who experience technical challenge, who consider themselves to be technically challenged, are able to jump in, roll up their sleeves and participate and feel involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all right.
And another last thing I'll say, because I do love to ramble on about Miro an awful lot, is the way that you can create the framework for people to work within. So the biggest client I've run this with was with 75 people across 13 departments, and we wanted to map the core processes of each of the 13 departments. And so if we just asked folks to do that, they'd come into a blank slate or start using Visio and be almost completely lost. So I was able to start throwing up instructions, very clear instructions with examples, and then the skeleton, and all they would have to do is bring a box in, write what the task name is, then connect an arrow to the next box and drop the next box. Everybody can get that. So there's no need to learn a new piece of software. But when you do create the framework, your job as the process documenter, it slightly shifts because you're no longer the only one who can listen and write down what you're hearing when you do your interviews or you're trying to capture the processes. You're actually becoming a facilitator to help the organization come together to realize it. And that's how they learn what their processes are. It's not on you to understand it. It's on them and you to guide that discussion.
I have just one little question after that, because I could imagine that, you know, as a good process consultant, I would give my client the best starting options so that they can start mapping out their process. And that is exactly what we experienced today. You had this lovely board and, you know, it was so easy for me, even though it was my first actual working with Miro. But I was wondering how long did it take you, because it must have been like it must take you a while to get this setup done.
It does. This is a pretty complex example, and to do 10 different scenarios as well was challenging. But if you're going in with a singular purpose to document a process, to maybe have them fill out a project charter or a data collection plan or any other associated documents, really, yes, there is upfront time to build those in Miro. But once you've built it once, you can save it as a template, or you can save it to the Miroverse. And I'm not sure if you know the Miroverse exists, but it is a community-driven content library where you can pull many different things together. I have not gotten a lot of my lean and process-based exercises up there because, well, partly getting ready for this and trying to figure out where the appetite is going to be and what the most useful things to throw out there would be. But I would be more than happy to share with you some of the frameworks that I've created for process improvement boards. I have a SIPOC diagram, I have a cross-functional flow chart, gap analysis, implementation plan, very simple implementation plan, data collection plan, a lot of those key things you would work on to help folks understand, from point A to point F, where are we going to think about this process, where it works well and where it doesn't. And it's because it's so easy to use and so collaborative, people pick it up immediately. And just seconding what Ken said, I've had people who are not comfortable with technology, but they realize that if they don't learn it quickly and contribute, that their voices aren't going to be heard. And it's so intuitive when they do put their mind to it and start working with it. It's quite brilliant. It's completely shifted the way I do all of my project work. I wouldn't do it any other way now.
Thanks, John.
All right,
I see there's a couple of others
Thank
on
you
the
so much.
call still.
Thank you, Elena.
Is there anyone else who has another question? If not, we can dig a little deeper into this, but is there anyone else who has another question? Diana, I see you're with us. You still got your screen on?
Nope, no questions.
No, okay. Marcello, Christina, Eric, Lindsay? They may have just kind of left the room to go take care of the kids and just left their thing running. That's entirely possible. Christina, how did you have a question?
I love this exercise. I thought it was really, really well done. Can you talk a little bit about when is the appropriate way to kind of use this? Is it the start of a session? Is it how to kind of remove the barriers and get the teams to think differently? Can you talk a little bit about how to best apply this as an activity and then jump into co-creation?
Sure, yeah.
A quick clarification, Christina. Do you mean this particular exercise that we're developed, or do you mean Miro generally?
I think something like this. I kind of took this as a really good introduction of not only how the tool works, but kind of getting teams primed for high engagement, high activity level and output. So can you talk a little bit about kind of best use cases?
Yeah, absolutely. So the two ways to come at this are, number one is you want to lay a little bit of groundwork to set the stage for what you're going to be doing. And whether that is to give a little bit of background in continuous improvement or culture, what you want to do is have your educational slides up front and then the experiential exercises so that people get the practical application of what you were talking about and teaching them. So that's kind of the ordering that I like to do, is first set the stage, then get something real easy to understand. But it's not, so the whole how does Miro function and how do we get people on board with how it works, this is a little bit of a complicated case for a brand new to Miro person. Ken and I have worked on some introductory boards, and Annie as well, that really get people to start with the basics of, here is a sticky note, here is a shape, here's how you change them, change the color. So that's the very basic introduction. Creating these activities as we've done here, it's actually morphing something that I've done live with audiences when I was doing live workshops. So in a very similar way for this experiment, I would just stagger people in a room standing apart from each other, and they would throw little mini chocolate bars from one station to the next. And it's the exact same idea. It's a pain in the butt. It doesn't work. Everyone's dropping chocolate bars. In good news, everyone gets chocolate bars, but and the activity is lots of fun to get the room engaged. So when COVID hit, we were really stifled as to how we want to teach people about what we do and how we do it, but it's really tough if you're just doing a slide presentation and people are stuck listening to you. So to build this interactivity into it really helps to support from a classroom learning perspective. So all that being said, it is also a good primer for going into other activities in your organization. So if you did want to do some culture improvement, we might create an activity that gets everybody having a bit of fun and learning about what we expect coming up in the actual working sessions. And the same could apply for a process improvement project, is set them up with an example, make a game out of it, and then they'll get the idea of what's going to be happening in a very low risk environment. And I've just always found that when people have fun and they get their hands dirty doing something, they learn so much more than the 10 or 15 slides you had before on setting it all up. It's really about that practical application. So I think that's how you would layer it, is use it both in the learning and then also in the practical application for what we're about to plan and do as a team.
I'll building on what Jonathan said, we've discovered that as many people have, that people's tolerance for a Zoom meeting is much shorter than for an in-person meeting, right? So you're trying to compact things into like a more truncated period of time, and we've found that like an average meeting could be like an hour, and you're really pushing it to try to get two and a half hours out of people. So what we've found is, when time is that precious, we've found that trying to merge different activities together is really useful. So in every meeting, you'll notice that there's always the, hey everybody, how are we? How was your weekend? How was your day? How was your, you do those kind of social pieces. So we try to integrate that with the learning curve. So we say to people, okay, you'll see on your screen a sticky note. Please tell us, how was your weekend? By writing it into a sticky note and then moving the sticky note to the left, or something like that, right? So that they're learning 3 skills. You're doing 3 things at once. Right, you're doing the socializing, you're teaching them how to select an object, write in the object, and move the object over, right? Mm-hmm. And then we'll often try to stagger the level of complexity of the activities, so that the first few they're doing are things like a dot voting thing, like grab a dot and put it over here, and do we feel this or this, and we try to integrate that with the presentation piece, so that, for instance, Jonathan might be like, we might have chosen to do this particular exercise if it hadn't already been so interactive. We might have chosen by saying, here's 4 different pieces about the work. There's culture, there's process, there's continuous improvement. Move a sticky knot to whichever one you think is the most important. And then even if it's, so that you're able to integrate the sharing of information with the interactivity, so that it continues to keep them engaged. I've observed in a number of online conferences, as I'm sure you have as well, that a lot of people are often saying, like, they'll throw you a question and then they'll say, like, yeah, throw your answer into the chat, but then they never actually respond to what's put in the chat. The beautiful thing about using Miro in conjunction with a conference and a thing like Zoom is that everybody can see it all at once, right? Visual display, visual response.
And something you said just triggered me as well, for both Christina and for Alina with their questions, was once you get people comfortable working within Miro and working to the purpose that you've set up, the framework or the activity that you want them to move through, the other reason Miro is so amazing is because then you harness the asynchronous collaboration. So you do have a guided session where you give instructions, you're clear, you answer questions, and then you can go away and say to the team, we'll hook up again in a week to debrief on what you've done, but you're expected to come in and work over the course of that week. And in the project I had mentioned before with the 13 departments, it started slow and a lot of comments and questions started flying my way in week 1. But by week 2 and week 3, I was getting very little other than Miro functionality questions. They were totally focusing on the process, on how to identify it. I was seeing comments being tagged to each other. Can you fill this in? I don't know what happens. Oh, drag in a reference document. Here's what I meant. And it was unbelievable to watch how they took ownership of it, which is exactly where I want to be as a consultant and a facilitator, because my value add is not being a babysitter in a room. It's guiding the team, guiding everybody along the way that we want them to go. And I've just found Miro really gets you into that sweet spot for having them take that accountability and ownership of what they're doing, which is exactly what you want. We don't want us coming in and doing it to you. We want to do it with you.
Maybe now I'll turn the question around to the two of you. We'll return to Alina perhaps. So Alina, how do you see integrating Miro in your work? Can you give us just 1, maybe 2 simple ways that you see integrating it?
When I just heard Jonathan talking, definitely a use case popped up in my head right now. We do a big rollout project for an industrial client, and he wants to have a tool or a tool rollout, and with around about 10,000 international users. So we need to see all his processes that he wants to integrate in this tool. And some of those processes are very old, and they're just there because they were always done like that, but they do not really, I don't know, like for him they make perfectly sense, but it's so hard for the managers, but also for the normal people to adapt and see, is this still state of the art? And like of course, I'm from Germany, so the customer is in an automobile environment. And it's a branch where it's very, traditional, historical, and the hierarchy is like
rigid,
very
rigid.
Exactly. So this tool will, dig deep in one of the core processes, and if something is changing there, then maybe. No, you will see, okay, with modern tools, you might need fewer managers, like everything will get asked, are our KPIs still the right? Because we have way more transparency in everything. And so the managers or all the people that work in this part are not really eager to reshape their process that will be in that tool. So and the process is really, it's unnecessary complex. And I think with that tool, you maybe could start to really break it down to the most simple stuff and just, when I just asked you, like in BPMN, I always try to focus on make it the most exact as it could be. I'm not that fan of black boxes and everything like that, but maybe in this case, it's exactly what we need, that we say, okay, this is black box number 1, and that is black box number 2, and that is black box number 3, and we just get this mapped out in a bird perspective, and then we go down with additional tools once we are that far. But right now we're still somewhere on the surface, and nobody wants to tell us anything about the process. Maybe because they don't know, maybe because they do not want to lose their parking lots. I don't know.
It's so funny. Yeah, people hold on to ownership of their processes, and they're like, no, you can't do anything. It's like, we're just here to help. No, it's mine. You can't change it. Exactly. What if someone realizes I'm a